We pray for better days.
Hello guys, today I will be discussing about the future and the past of media in India. The Indian media has a long history spanning from the colonial past in the second half of the 18th century to the present as the largest functioning democracy of 21st century. When the British were firmly entrenched in the country and the Indian freedom movement was still in nascent stage, the newspaper of the late 18th century entered the country not only through the rulers but also to a great extent for the British readers in India and abroad. Back then, publishing houses were created as private commercial enterprises, which has not changed much throughout the years. The Indian newspaper saga started with an Irishman, James Augustus Hickey. Hickey launched the Bengal Gazette in 1780, India's first newspaper in English. Before that, the British East India Company's rule did not encourage the establishment of newspaper in India. Just to make sure that this newspaper was perceived as independent, Hickey added a line to his masthead, a weekly political and commercial paper, open to all parties but influenced by none. Hickey's paper was a bit tabloid and a bit satire paper. It lacked the tone of overly serious news evident in other British papers of that time. He initially used the paper to take on personal adversaries by usually mocking them, copying the British newspaper style in initially targeted only the British residents as readers. A campaign against the first Governor General of India, however, caused what can be pointed out as the first censorship in India when the Bengal Gazette was banned from circulation through official channels. It was that incident that reportedly disrupted Hickey's perception of how free the press should be able to serve its purpose. He devoted lots of space to social issues and anti-war content, including the voice of general public. A law called the Vernacular Press Act was brought in 1878 to curb the non-English Indian language press. The act, issued by Viceroy and Lord Lytton, clearly intended to stop the vernacular press from criticizing the government's policies. Since the reach of the vernacular press was constantly rising, the act was intended as a method to stop spreading unrest against the British rule. It was later repealed by Lord Ripon in 1881. Throughout time, several newspapers played important roles for the India on its way towards independence, such as Indian-owned platform The Tribune. After covering the Amritsar massacre in 1919, it was shut down and its editor, Kali Nath Ray, had been sent to jail. Radio in India has an interesting origin. In 1923 and 1924, radio clubs in Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, today Chennai, started their services, airing mostly music and talks for a couple of hours a day. Due to financial issues, they had to shut down already in 1927 under an agreement between the Indian government and a private company operating under the name Indian Broadcasting Company Limited (IBC). A broadcasting services was set up the same year in Bombay and Calcutta, followed by a shutdown of the IBC and the government taking over their assets. Since the radio broadcasting in India has been under government control, in 1936 the company was renamed All India Radio as the state-run radio service. In 1956, the state broadcaster All India Radio was again renamed Akashvani, Voice from the Sky. A year later, AIR launched Vivid Bharati. Television in India began at a very modest note. From a test transmission beginning on 15 September 1959, television grew wings as the years rolled on. Until 1975, only 7 Indian cities had access to Doordarshan, the national television service run by the government in 1982 under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Color television arrived in India, but it was not until 1991 that the things changed dramatically for the Indian television viewer, with CNN beaming the 1991 Gulf War live into Indian homes. The country got a taste of international television up close and personal. Coincidentally, it was the same year when the Indian government opened up the economy and allowed private satellite television channels to beam into India. For the first time, Indian viewers got a chance to watch non-Doordarshan shows were spoiled for choice. For the first time, many television networks including Sun Network, Zee Network and Star Network became the household names. Star in particular aired some of the famous English serials from foreign countries, and suddenly India had unrestricted access to those global entertainment properties. There are 1,18,239 media publications, 38,933 weekly newspapers and magazines, 17,160 daily newspapers, more than 880 satellite television channels, more than 380 news television channels, and 550 plus non-news entertainment radio stations. According to the statistic portal Statista, The pay TV penetration in India by cable and satellite was 82% in the year 2018 and is likely to grow 84% by the year 2023. Encouraging throughout the scenario, today Indian media has to go through some different point in its history. In 1975, an embattled Prime Minister of the country, Ms. Indira Gandhi, faced with many charges of corruption and misuse of authority, declared internal emergency in the country. Fundamental rights were suspended and press freedom were curtailed. Much later, when Ms. Gandhi's son Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, he tried to bring in an anti-defamation law against what was called as criminal imputation and scurrilous writings, effectively discouraging journalists from investigating the government. Gandhi later withdrew bill, faced with extraordinary protests from around the country. Even in the current government headed by Narendra Modi, there is an overwhelming feeling that the press does not get to its job, and despite challenges, Indian media is one of the most enduring features of its democracy. Though faced with challenges repeatedly, the media has tried to play the role of watchdog and has quite often justified the title of being the fourth pillar of Indian democracy.